Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and in this video, we are talking about Fulci on 4K. We have The New York Ripper, and we have The House by the Cemetery, both making their 4K Ultra HD disc debut from Blue Underground. But if you've been watching Serial at Midnight, if you're up to date, you've been with us for the last, the weeks, the past few months, even years, you will remember it has not been that long since we talked about Blue Underground's previous batch of 4Ks, Maniac and Fulci's Zombie. So these new releases represent a further commitment by Blue Underground to the 4K format. And that's a big deal because we're living in a time where 4K is still very much an outlier. It's still an experimental format. It's clearly better. There's no argument that it's not better, but it has not been widely adopted. These are early days for 4K. And so for Blue Underground to go all in with these 4K discs, it's a big deal. Listen, as of the recording of this video, there's no Criterion 4K. So many companies are doing 4K restorations, which is a wonderful thing. A 4K restoration on Blu-ray as exists with the previous. See, this is not the first time we've talked about these movies. We also talked about them with these 3-disc special editions from earlier this year. So in fact, I've already reviewed these movies. This is not really going to be a review of the movies. I'm going to link to that coverage right here. And you can find what we actually think about the movies. I'll touch on the movies too, but these are the 4K restorations that are on these discs. But when you take a 4K restoration, that's a 2160p high definition, ultra high definition image, and you put it on a Blu-ray, well, a Blu-ray is 1080p. So you're halving the quality, you're halving 50%. You're cutting the quality in half. So as good as these look, and they do look really, really good. I popped these back in just for reference so I could see visually how the Blu-ray compares. Same basic restoration, same 4K restoration, Blu-ray versus 4K. I wanted to be able to see. You guys, it's such an improvement because it's half of what the restoration is. And it's fine. Like for Blu-ray, like so many companies are doing, this is what I'm saying, so many companies are doing 4K restorations. But if you're not putting a 4K restoration on a 4K disc, I mean, I don't want to say what's the point, because there is a point, but it's not nearly as good as it could be if you just put it on its native format. So for Blue Underground to do this, I'm very happy. I actually could not be happier. And so here's another thing. I've gotten a lot of marketplace confusion, a lot of questions saying, well, are these just a replacement for these? No, I actually do not think that the 4Ks are intended to replace these previous 3-disc special editions. I think these are the cherry on top. These are a complement to these special editions. There's no soundtracks in here, so let's go through this. So the New York Ripper, this 3-disc special edition, has the movie on Blu-ray with that new 4K restoration. It has the movie on DVD, and it has the CD soundtrack. It also has an essay, like a booklet inside with an essay. Here, I'll just show you really quick. It has a booklet with essays and text and all sorts of stuff. House by the Cemetery has the 4K restoration on a Blu-ray by itself, and then it has a special features Blu-ray, and it has the soundtrack CD. And that soundtrack, the House by the Cemetery soundtrack, is fabulous. It's freaking fantastic. It's like, I'm wearing my Halloween shirt. I don't want to compare it too closely to Carpenter, but it does feel in the same vein as Carpenter. It's a synthesizer score. We love synthesizer scores. So that's what you get with these, and you get those 4K transfers downsampled by 50%. They're brought from 2160 to 1080. That's half the quality. And they still look great. That's the thing. They still look great. But this is now the cherry on top. These add to this because these do not have soundtracks. I'll tell you what you get. Let's just go through this really quick. So with the New York Ripper, you get the movie. Disc 1 is the 4K restoration in native 4K. It's a 1-to-1 conversion. No quality loss from the restoration at all. That's disc 1. Disc 2 is the Blu-ray that was included with this release. There's no booklet, there's no soundtrack, just the movie. As you can see, it's just the movie. So it's not a replacement. These are not replacing one another. It's not an either or. It's a yes and. Any improv fans out there know you yes and, right? It's a yes and. With The House by the Cemetery, you get the movie on, let's see, disc 1 is the movie itself, and in 4K, and disc 2 is the Blu-ray special features disc. So you don't even get the Blu-ray movie here. You get the 4K movie and a Blu-ray special features disc. No soundtrack, no booklet. These are not replacements. These are supplements. This is for those of us who have upgraded. It's just the next step up. So how do they look? You know, I kind of already told you, but they look amazing. Like, I gotta say, you know, House by the Cemetery is a very well. This restoration, the version presented on the Blu-ray, the 4K presentation on the standard Blu-ray, it's very grainy. I like grain. I'm a big fan of film grain. A lot of people think that if you see film grain, it means it's a bad transfer. It's not true. Usually film grain is a sign of a very detailed transfer. The more grain you're seeing, that means the more of the actual 35mm negative you are witnessing, because it's grain makes film. That's what goes into the image. It's made of grain. But there's issues with how grain can be resolved in the Ultra HD era, or just in HD. So I like the way this movie looks. I'm trying to get the you guys see the lenticular action that's happening here. I like the way this movie looks on Blu-ray. It's got a lot of grain. It just looks very filmic, just popping with film. It just looks very alive. But I mean, I gotta say, you pop in the 4K disc and the grain is magically like finer. You know, like in this, it's very noisy. It's a very noisy, grainy image. The grain is just like all over the place. Not so with the 4K. This is what we critics like to say. These film YouTube, film Twitter. This is what we like to say is the grain is resolved, because it is. The grain is resolved. The grain is in its proper place. It's not distracting. It's not like, you know, bugs all over the screen. It's very, very, very fine, and that's because of the added detail that the image is able to bring. Also, better colors, better saturation, higher frame rates. There's a lot of things that benefit the image. New York Ripper also looks significantly better. It looks deeper and richer. See, New York Ripper was not nearly as grainy as The House by the Cemetery, but it still looks a lot better in the 4K Ultra HD format. It's just got this, it's more, those of you who are adopters of 4K, you know, a good 4K image feels lifelike. The hues, that HDR that brings the flesh tones, and it's not just about detail. It's just about like the added level of life, really. And so that is here. Ironic, we're talking about life in the New York Ripper, because it's a movie that's very much about death. Let me talk about the movies really quick. I don't really want to review these because goodness knows I've done this several times before. I think this is my favorite Fulci. The House by the Cemetery it's the first one I ever saw. So for me, Fulci and The House by the Cemetery, like, it just taps into something. That score, you know, it's Fulci kind of playing in the Shining territory. You know, you get the house and there's this mystery of the house and the people in the house are slowly, you know, there's all this stuff. But with Fulci's anger, maybe, and his darkness, more on display than in other movies. But I really like The House by the Cemetery. So it's great. And the New York Ripper is an endurance test, and it's always been an endurance test. It's not my favorite Fulci, but it does have its fans, and it's an important movie because it's a movie about a serial killer. Here's the debate. Is it giallo? Is it slasher? Could go either. You know, it's an Italian movie. It's about a serial killer in New York. It could be considered a giallo, but it does have a lot of early slasher elements to it. But it's tough, man. It's a tough, even those of us who love horror are like, yeah, man, New York Ripper, man. I don't know. It's a tough sit sometimes. It's so merciless and it's so relentless. But here's the thing. That's what it was intended to be. We're talking about a serial killer. Should that be as fun as it sometimes is? You know what I mean? Fulci is going for the visceral, gritty, full impact of what You know, we're not cutting away. Like, we're starting with this razor blade, and then we're going, oh, they just went deeper, and you know what? This is not fun. It's that kind of a thing. So this is just, it's a whole different thing. It's Fulci. I think it's Fulci at his angriest. I think it's him at his darkest, his most merciless. Of all of his movies, this one has the least amount of... there's no levity in it whatsoever. There's no breaks. There's no mercy. That's what it is. It's merciless. It's a merciless movie. But I gotta say, both of these, you guys, both of these have literally, I mean, hear me. These are 4K transfers. This is the first time they have been seen in their native 4K format. They have never looked better. This is the pinnacle. This is the top of the mountain. This is as good as it gets. And I really do believe that. You know, people say, well, 8K is coming. Every time we cover 4K, someone somewhere says 8K is coming, but it's not. 8K is not coming for home video. The people that work, there's an 8K board. They have said, yeah, no, not for movies, no. It's not what it's for. 4K or 8K is going to be like, you know, for football technology. You zoom way in and you watch that live on your screen. Movies are not shot for 8K. Movies are shot for, in a 35mm film image. 4K is really getting about all you're going to get out of it for what we watch. So I'm going to say this. Here is my line. Here is the pull quotes for the bottom of the poster for the magazine review. Serial at Midnight says, both movies have never looked better, and these are the equivalent of seeing these films in brand new, pristine 35mm prints projected onto a theatrical screen on opening day. We will never see them better than this. I really do believe that. These movies will never look better than they look right here. So, if that's not an endorsement for 4K fans to pick these up, I don't know what is. And remember, if you already have these releases, as I do, this is not intended to replace. This is meant to supplement. We have the soundtracks, we have the Blu-rays, we have the special features. This is meant to give you that top-notch presentation and complement what we already have. So that's it. That's the end of the road. These are wonderful, wonderful additions to your 4K collection. To see a third-party distributor, an independent film distributor, embracing horror on the 4K format with such zeal, with such fervor, is so refreshing. I want to see more companies doing this. Hopefully, this is a sign of success. This is a sign of endorsements, and others will follow. But they will only follow if we support these. Sales dictate everything. Something to remember. Email doesn't change anything. Outrage on Twitter, that doesn't change anything. The only thing that really talks is money. So if you are 4K ready, or you're thinking about becoming 4K ready, you got to have these. Independent horror on 4K. Fantastic stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks to Blue Underground for making sure that I had these to show you and to review for you on release date. You guys, these are available. This may go up before they're officially available. If you want to pick these up, scroll down to the video description and you can see purchase links for all four of these. I'll put purchase links for a variety of different retailers as well, so you can just pick your favorite. But thanks to everybody. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to Blue Underground. Guys, take care. And until next time, I will catch you later.